spirituality, radical awakening, enlightenment is about coming home to your essence, to your natural self. It is about fully realizing who you are, not as a separate person, but that which is beyond your concepts of personality, of identity. It is about coming home to life itself, to love, presence. It's almost like if you've been out in the very cold weather, you're freezing, you're hungry, you're tired, and you walk in to this warm cottage. You sit in front of the warm, sparkling fire. You drink a cup of tea, take your boots off and just relax, surrender. You feel a warmth, the feeling of being home, of being safe and at peace. Words can never describe it. Our minds can never grasp it. We cannot convey it, convince anyone, teach it. We can only point towards that which already exists within everyone, everything. There are many names, many explanations, many spiritual, religious and mystical traditions been trying to talk about the divine, about life itself, the essence. And what all talk about, regardless of when they talked about it, or what religion it was portrayed by or developed into, is love. Love, oneness, light, a direct experiencing of the divine, of being one with everything, the interconnectedness of all. And there is beauty and love always present. Our concepts about spirituality, our ideas about it, our logical explanations, our fancy wordings, reciting scriptures, can never explain it. It can never portray it. And I myself, I'm not very good at explaining it in words. There are people like Rupert Spira, for instance, with a very clear, logical, scientific type of mind. They manage to convey the complexities and the simplicity of presence in a way that even the most discerning brain sort of can understand the concept of it. I'm not good at explaining it in those terms, because for me, I've never felt that strong need to fully understand it all. The more years I've lived, or the longer I've lived, the more I realize that many truths can be true at the same time. There are so many different paradoxes, and there are so many different layers and dimensions, so many different perspectives you can see any given situation or a whole life from. Photography has been a huge part of my life, even as a child, and it's been my profession for many, many years. And that sort of being able to zoom in and zoom out. If I zoom in to the wing of an insect and then zoom out with a fisheye and look at everything around, I don't even see the insect anymore. So what we describe when we zoom in and what we describe when we zoom out are different things, but they're not in contrast to one or the other. So many times I've had to reevaluate my beliefs or realize that many things can be true depending on where you look from. Even if two people with the same understanding, the same sort of level of energy and thought, beliefs even, can have two completely different experiences. If we take the number 6, from my point of view might look like 6, and from that other point of view might look like a 9. We're both right. I remember years ago, 25 years ago, I worked for a brief period on a very small cruise ship in the Indian Ocean. And I remember these little groups that went out on excursions on these beautiful tropical islands. After a day out in nature, on the beaches, seeing all these different exotic animals and trying new foods and meeting the indigenous people there, they came back to the ship. Some people said it was terrible. They hated it. It's like the worst experience ever. And others, they loved it. It was one of the best experiences of their life. And they had been together as a group the whole day. It's often our minds that can get in the way of spirituality, of that direct experience, the direct knowing, the recognition of our true self. I know that it's been like that for me as well. I was brought up with examples like Jesus and Buddha, and I remember Jesus, you couldn't really compare to him, the miracles and everything. And then one of the first spiritual books that I read was a series of books called The Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East by Bayard T. Spalding, I think it was called. It was written in it was late 1800s. It was about a group of scientists that were going to study people in the Himalayas. And they come to discover that they were enlightened beings. They did not age. They could sort of teleportate and communicate telepathically. And I had these ideas that spirituality, self-realization, enlightenment came with all these abilities. And I used to put people with the certain abilities of seeing auras or the future or talking to extraterrestrials or angels, that they maybe were more evolved spiritually somehow and that had more answers. They were more closer to the divine. And I myself, especially in my teens and 20s, I had a lot of very profound, what some people call supernatural experiences, very strong ones, quite extraordinary ones. And I used to think that that meant it was spiritual. It's so easy to get stuck on the way of phenomena, of these full-on blissful experiences and these supernatural things and these little miracles and the magical things. And we got blinded by that. and forget about the simplicity, the feeling, not even a feeling, just that, like the homecoming of sort of just relaxing into one's innermost being, that intimacy with all of creation, not in a fantastic wow way, simple peace and stillness, that calm is sometimes overlooked as something not that important. It's like, yeah, but no. Yeah, I felt that, but isn't it supposed to be super blissful? Am I not supposed to have all these abilities, perform little miracles, see all these beings? And it's like some people are born with huge talent for music or maths, or they're extremely good in a specific sport, that like really have that talent since birth, or fantastic artists. Some people have an inclination. It's easier for them to have certain what is called spiritual abilities, but it's not more special than anything else. And it doesn't equal that is a person that is more spiritual, more evolved. I spent a lot of my years longing to go back home. And when I went home, it was like a higher vibrational energy or plane. I felt lost here on earth for many, many years. And I was just longing for, I don't know, some angel, some spiritual guide, some extraterrestrial family that would just come and get me, bring me back home again. Because I felt that it was a mistake being here. That it was a bit too dense. And since I have always remembered what it was like to not be in a physical body, of just being completely free in all aspects, it felt very limiting to be here. And when I looked around and I saw so many things that felt like, worse than the Stone Age, I saw everything from the school system was so dysfunctional, the sexism, the injustices in the world, racism, poverty. It felt so bizarre to me. Even the medical system and financial system were a lot of things that I looked at from a young age without ever being taught from my parents or anyone else. But for me, they just felt so counterintuitive and felt so wrong and so bizarre. And I didn't feel at home here. And a lot of the time, it was just this longing of going back to that state of feeling at home, in utter bliss, pure love, the oneness, the freedom, even the freedom of not having a body. And I would love these moments and periods when I just blissed out in meditation. No, I was never into drugs. For me, my meditations or spiritual experiences were like my high, where I got high from. It was like the contrast between that and the density of this 3D world. It was very painful. And there was a sense of not wanting to be here, really. And I've never been scared of dying. It almost felt like, yeah, that's fine. It's like going back home. About 15 years ago, I started having these moments of complete alert, of oneness with everything. And they could happen in the most unlikely of places, not in meditation or in my dreams or in beautiful places like in nature or making love. I could be in the subway, and it could just be a lot of garbage around me, a lot of noise and things that would normally disturb me. And I just looked at them and I took it in with all my senses completely open, and it became like this beautiful symphony. It's like everything was just so beautiful. It was just like touching every part of my being, every little piece of garbage or piece of rock or concrete or graffiti, everything from the sounds to the people. It was just like sending these pleasurable shivers throughout my whole being, feeling how the beauty of everything, that even the things that people look at as garbage, even that has immense beauty and presence. And those started to occur quite often, and when I least expected it. And it was very like a sensual experience. It's like a very intimate, sensual experience with everything around. Then some years after that, I went through my most recent, not the first, but my most recent and the most full-on dark night of the soul. Immense suffering, heartache, and pain. But facing that, feeling it fully, I started to feel the underlying, not even underlying, the all permeating presence, love, life itself, all the time. So it's more like, as before, if you imagine me as a photographer, being able to zoom in and zoom out, and I will get lost in what I would see and identify with that, and it's like get lost in that scene there, then yes, I could zoom out and get lost in that. But now it's like I'm aware that I'm seeing through different lenses and different zooms, different angles. I'm aware, I'm always aware of my essence, but I can still get trauma triggers. I can still go into reactive mood. I can still go into ego thoughts. But they don't go as deep, they don't last for as long, and it's like I can see them happening. So no, I wouldn't call myself, well, not even myself, it's not the self. I wouldn't put a label on my experience as I'm fully enlightened. No. But what I want to talk about here is to not overlook that calm, familiar, loving peace, love, intimacy with life. That is actually, from my experience, even more valuable, more of a home feeling than those states of total expansion when I haven't even known the body, where it's like everything, or when I'm out in space or visiting other places. That's almost like a drug, a kick. But this is something much more grounded. So for the last 20 years for me, I've felt at home, right where I am. So wherever I go in this world, I feel at home. Whereas before I kept longing for the stars or for another plane. But somehow, even when it is hurtful and it's painful, it's hard, there is still this base of home, of recognition that the divine is never out there, has never disappeared, is never lost. It's like the more we try to intellectualize, the more we try to control and understand spirituality, the more we're trying to sort of craft our awakening, that there was like a candy store where we can pick different abilities and how we want this enlightenment to unfold, or how it should unfold because we have read about it or heard other spiritual teachers talk about it in a certain way. They had that experience and this is supposed to happen, and if this doesn't happen, doesn't mean that. And we get into this minds, ideas and constructs of what it is, and comparing different people's experiences and levels of spirituality, vibration, evolution. So I invite you to examine it for yourself. Forget about me, forget about other so-called teachers or gurus or institutions that tell you about spirituality. If there's something that resonates with you, take that as a hint, but then try it out for yourself. Does that hold true? Does it ring true? And feel it, embody it, discover it, get curious. That's the first step, to get curious, to know the truth of who you are, your authentic self, your divine nature. Because the mind can never grasp it. The most powerful thing we can do is to be still, to just stop our mental ideas about it, what we're supposed to do, what we want to do. We want to achieve something, be someone, go somewhere, get rid of something, work harder, do the shadow work, do this, do that. Just stop. Be still. Completely still. Don't cling on to anything. Let go of all your ideas and beliefs and identifications. Let go of the need to judge if what I'm saying rings true or not, if I am ego or love, or if you, where you are on the evolutionary scale, your vibration. Let go of all of that. Let go of your idea about spirituality, about God, about enlightenment, self-realization. Drop that. Drop all of it. Everything. That which remains when you let go of everything is home. It's not complicated. We make it complicated. Often people, what some would call simple people, because they haven't studied that much, they're not intellectuals, they don't have that maybe strong analytical or scientific engineer type of mind. They might be simple farmers. It's often easier for them to realize their true nature, to be enlightened. Because they don't have all these things to compare with. They haven't read all these scriptures, listened to all the videos and read all the books. practiced all these different things. It's like we create these layers on layers of confusion in front of our eyes, and we make it feel like there's something hard or something difficult to attain, that is something only for a few special ones. There's nothing special about it. It's just about realizing who you are, which is the most natural thing there is, and we're all the same. Our core is the same. No one is special. I could talk about a lot of these full-on revelations, supernatural things that I've experienced, but that doesn't really add anything. It is not constructive. It only helps the mind to get more lost in the illusion and create concepts and ideas of trying to evaluate it or compare or saying, oh yes, now she's either crazy, she's inventing things, or she's really involved. We should listen to her more now. Maybe she's a real one. She's a real guru. And the mind starts ticking. But it's completely irrelevant, those things. So the most profound thing that you can do is just to stop. Be still. Open. And curious. Curious to know who you are. Curious to know the truth. May you be happy, peaceful, and free.